In the last episode, you heard from John and Mark X. Cronin, the father and son duo behind John's Crazy Socks. Today, on episode number 57, get ready. We've got Abby Fallacaro, who's a senior manager of e-commerce at Edie Parker. And today, we'll be talking about how to grow a regulated brand by building, well, a lifestyle brand. I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of SplitBase. This is Minds of E-commerce. Now, this episode is also brought to you by SplitBase. At SplitBase, we help leading 8 and 9-figure brands such as Dr Squatch, Hyperice, Amica grow through customer-focused conversion optimization programs. Our programs pinpoint exactly where your store is losing money most, and then, well, we help you fix it. The result, you get increased conversions, higher AOV, and of course, more money, which in returns allows you to scale advertising profitably. We've been at it for over a decade now, and we can help you manage conversion optimization from A to Z, from customer research, conversion design, strategy, copywriting, and development. We focus on growing your e-commerce sales while you get to focus on what you do best. So go to splitbase.com to request a proposal today and learn how we can help you get the most out of your marketing spend. All right, Abby, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So as you know, this podcast it's all about going deep, right? And dissecting one key growth strategy so our listeners can get most value right away.
Mhm.
And today we're going to have a very interesting conversation because one, we have a bit of an unconventional brand, which means, well, this is an unregulated or sorry, highly regulated, I should say,
Mhm.
industry. But you also have another brand that is not regulated that can be used as a lever to grow the regulated brand. So let's
Mhm.
just maybe start to and give some our listeners some context.
Mhm.
So the brand, for example, has been around for about how many years now?
Edie Parker as a handbag brand was established in 2010 and became very popular with these acrylic handbags that had names plastered on them. They were on the red carpet, carried by Kate Hudson and a number of celebrities. So that's how we really entered the fashion scene. And then also introduced with the same acrylic material home decor. And then, as I'm sure we'll get into, in 2019, we introduced a line of smoking accessories and also THC.
Awesome. And one of the challenges with, having that line of THC products is, well, you
Mhm.
can't really be super innovative sometimes with a lot of, marketing tactics. So sometimes you have to be innovative with conventional marketing strategies.
Right.
So
A little bit back to basics.
exactly. We got to go back to basics and then kind of use and be creative. So
Mhm.
I'd love to, one of the things you guys have done is you've really leveraged the handbag and smoking accessories brand, I should say, as, the lifestyle pillar of the THC brand. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a bit more about that relationship? How are you utilizing both of these brands to ultimately build a lifestyle and feed, customers to each of those
Mhm.
brands?
Yeah, well, I think all of the products that we have, whether they are THC or accessories that you'd have on your tabletop or coffee table, they all speak to the same aesthetic. And we're really building kind of a whimsical, colorful lifestyle brand that's exciting. So if you're carrying a handbag or if you're at a party, you have a fun little trick, you have a lighter, or if you have um, a jello mold on your coffee table, that's a really big conversation piece. Oh, there's a hidden ashtray underneath. Or if you're in a dispensary, which we find ourselves as a company and also a lot of the people that shop with us doing more and more regularly now that legalization has become more prevalent in the US. Our packaging also speaks to that same aesthetic. So it's very eye catching and it's kind of building this world and all these different beautiful touch points.
One of the things that I think I took away is that you're not trying to sell THC products or accessories. You're selling a lifestyle that's very highly defined and very,
Mm-hmm.
very specific to an audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you sell that lifestyle, you have people in kind of that ecosystem and it becomes easier to sell them the other products. One of the things I'm interested in knowing is how, in terms of marketing strategies, do you cross-pollinate, your different, I guess, your customer base. So, for example, someone who buys the accessories, are
Mhm.
they also going to get the marketing for the THC brand? How is that communication or dialogue happening within that same ecosystem?
Okay, so we've already hit against one of the first limitations that we have, actually.
Mm,
Marketing THC is extremely difficult. It's practically non existent. So we rely on a lot of out of home, word of mouth, and then that cross pollination that you referred to. We have smoking accessories available for purchase online. And then we have a companion website that talks about our THC products and where to find them in person. And the two websites are linked together, but obviously, due to regulation, we're not transacting
yeah.
online for THC. So you can certainly discover THC through our accessories line. And I think that relationship has served us very well.
Mm. Uh, One of the things you mentioned earlier is you had to go back to basics, and that was a great
Mm-hmm.
example where you
Mm-hmm.
just really can't market in every way you'd like.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more? I'm curious. What are some of those basics you feel you really had to revisit, and what's
Mm-hmm.
worked best so far?
So I think we do a really great job with our marketing activations.
Mm,
We host a number of events throughout the year that get people really excited, and I think the basic pillar there is just an authentic connection to the product and also to the audience, and staying nimble, failing fast when something doesn't work, and then
yeah.
identifying room for growth when something does take off. A really good example of this is 2 years ago, we introduced our burn bags, which are, oh, I have so many of them around me. The handbags that have these retractable lighters,
Mm,
and
so
these
cool.
really took off on TikTok. So, once there's demand, we develop into different materials and different colors, and that's really exciting. So that's an example of, utilizing word of mouth, one of the most classic sales tactics.
Amazing. I'd love to dive a little deeper into activation events.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that we don't talk about a lot, and it's maybe a bit unconventional for e-commerce brands to do. So,
Mm-hmm.
what is your definition of an activation event? And is this something that you do just for like the THC brand, or are you also doing it for, the accessories brand? And how does it work specifically?
Yeah, at all of our events, there's a really big harmony between the products, obviously, because they are companion pieces. You have THC, and then you have a beautiful stash jar that you're storing it in at home. So at those events, both lines are present, and I think at the in-person events is when you can really see the brand in action.
Hmm.
With our background in fashion, we do pay attention to, the fashion calendar. For example, this year for New York Fashion Week in February, we had one of the New York housewives, Countess Luann, as our special guest for the evening, and she sang. We had a cabaret. People were eating edibles. People were wearing our handbags, and it was a very joyous, colorful event that really captivated our audience. We got some really great press coverage from it. And I think that really sells what we're speaking to of having a good time. That's one of our mottos. We're for a good time.
I like that. Now,
And
when
joy is something that's easy to sell, is something
right,
that I've found.
I'm sure. I'm curious when you guys are doing activation events, right? Like it's one thing to do one event, but for it to become a marketing strategy,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be thoughtfully planned out and it has to be
Mm-hmm.
more than just one event. So how do you, when you're looking at your marketing calendar and what you do for the brand, how do you think of those events? Do you think of them as like, oh, in each market, we're going to do X amount of event every year? How do you decide when and how to do the events? And obviously, it sounds like aligning with the fashion calendar, which to me says we're aligning with our key demographic that we're targeting.
Mm-hmm.
Very smart. But
Mm-hmm.
then beyond finding that customer and where they hang out, How
Mhm.
often do you need to do it for it to be effective?
Yeah, it depends on the market. I mean, we do have brand ambassadors in the 11 states that we're in, or that have touch points in the 11 states
Yeah.
that we're in for THC. So that's really up to them on what they see on the ground, what the need is and what the appetite is. For me, from an e-commerce perspective, the most important thing with events is really bringing it home to a digital selling opportunity.
Yeah.
So we can have as many in-person events as we want, but you have a very limited amount of people who are going to buy tickets, who are going to be available on that evening. So how do we translate this into sales? And not to get too far from your question, but back to the website, one of the biggest things that I launched last year was a blog. And this is, again, like one of those basic
Yeah.
tenets for being online, having a blog, throwing it back a little bit. Not only did that help, SEO and all of those implications, but it also expanded the audience for those in-person activations.
Interesting. Now,
Yeah.
you said something that caught my attention. You said buy tickets. So
Mm.
these events, am I understanding that they're not free events and people actually have to buy events to them as well? Buy tickets, sorry.
Not necessarily. I think we've
Okay.
done a couple of ticketed events, and then it's
Interesting.
like you buy a ticket. I think they're all pretty low price point, pretty approachable. And then whatever your ticket is for. I remember an activation we had last year that was actually at a dispensary that was surrounded around the launch of one of our handbags, but
Mm,
hosted in a dispensary setting. So then, you get that cross pollination.
yeah.
The price of the ticket got you. There was someone there doing tooth gemming,
I
so
love
it,
it.
it was really exciting. So we
Right.
got to do that. People were, enjoying the products, flashing a gemmed toothy smile,
Yes.
and posting about it online, and then giving us a little bit of content to, bring it back to that digital selling point, post about it on the blog, increase the reach, and then cross promote the products.
Would you say the goal of the activation events is to foster, a base of customer in a specific market? For example, we talked in one of the previous episodes with a shoe brand, McGuire Shoe, that was doing a lot of pop-ups, as a way to just kind of test markets and better understand the markets. And even though their
Mhm.
primary business is e-commerce, they were doing that specifically to grow the e-commerce brand. But in
Yeah.
your case, would you say it's kind of the same where you're conquering markets, for lack of a better term? Or is it really to just get influencers into place and get them to share it online, but to have, something maybe a bit more interesting to share than just another marketing post?
It depends on the event. We have some that are definitely targeted towards, inviting press, inviting VIP
Mm,
guests, having celebrity talent involved, getting influencers involved. But we also have events that are for our customers, which I think is really important and goes back to
mm,
what I mentioned before of having a really authentic connection with our products, with the way that our customers interact with them. And one of the inherent issues with selling online is that, you have an item that you want someone to, you want them to trade their money for your item, but they can't hold it, they can't smell it, they can't, see how this retractable lighter will actually work in their hands.
right.
So these in-person events give you a little bit of, credibility with your audience, a little bit of that experience. And then also we walk away with photos that we can then share and show people, this is the world that we're creating, and you can purchase and engage, or, just see a pretty picture and scroll by.
I want to go back to what you said earlier about one of your key objectives, obviously working in
Mm-hmm.
e-commerce, is to make
Mm-hmm.
sure those in-person events actually convert into e-commerce sales,
Yeah.
right? So can you tell us a bit more about how you're doing that? So we understand
Mm-hmm.
there's the blog that's there as a way to kind of nurture people and kind of
Mm-hmm.
keep that community alive. But is there
Mm-hmm.
anything else specifically that you do to really bring that live person event and turn it into an e-commerce sale?
I would say the blog is the primary way that events translate to sales, but we
Hmm.
also have a highly engaged social following. So that's a really big piece of the puzzle. And I think that's been a really successful channel for us for growth.
Mm. I think, for our listeners listening, one of the main takeaways I'm getting from this is no matter what the brand is doing, no matter which marketing channel or activity that they're focusing on, everything is centered around building a community.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to build that community, you have to understand your customer. And this is a recurring theme on the podcast. It
Mm-hmm.
sounds like all the best and fastest scaling brands that come on this podcast, there's one thing they have in common, and it's really a key and deep understanding of their customer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, Abby, would I be correct if I'd say that at the end of the day, you guys are betting on community as your primary engine of growth?
I think that's a really big part of it. Yeah. Identifying the right audience,
Yeah,
fostering community, because once they trust us,
yeah,
through building that community, they're willing to trade their hard earned dollars for kind of wacky products. We
yeah.
sell ridiculous and beautiful tabletop lighters. We sold one last year that was a stick of butter. That was one of my favorite items we've ever made. And for someone to fully embrace our kind of Edie dream world, they have to really be bought into the community and feel like they're a part of something.
Yeah. And I think this is something that a lot of brands forget about, right? In your case, you don't have the luxury of, thousands of different marketing strategies because most of them, at least for the THC brand, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're not really available to you.
Well,
So,
it's also for the accessories line. I want to make sure that's clear. We're facing
ah,
this on every front.
interesting. Okay, that is
Yes,
something I had not realized.
yes. Anything that is cannabis, it depends on the channel where their policies lie. It's either because it's cannabis and CBD touching, or
Right.
because it's smoking in general.
Interesting.
Google is very sensitive to anything smoking, so all of those marketing efforts are limited. SMS is a channel that we can't really engage with in a
Mm,
meaningful way. Um, and even online, our payment processor has to be third
yeah,
party. We can't use any of the Apple Pays or Shop Pay or any of the quick payment portals.
yeah,
So it's really challenging. It's really, really challenging for us to get one conversion. We're fighting an uphill battle.
yeah. But I think you've kind of revealed the key, right? Which is when you can't do what every other brand does,
Mm-hmm.
well, you kind of have to get back to basics and just get really, really, really good at it. And the basics still work,
Yeah.
right? But often, marketers, founders, they're excited by the latest and greatest, the most innovative technique. But
Mm-hmm.
there is success. You can achieve success with practically every strategy as long as you've got that discipline and that focus. And
Yeah.
really, to me, that's my takeaway today. So,
Mm-hmm.
Abby, if people want to learn more about the brand or the brands, I should say, or they want to learn
Mm-hmm.
more about you, or where should they go? Yeah.
Yeah, so edie-parker.com is where you'll find all of our handbags, home decor, some smoking accessories. And then Flower by Edie Parker has its own website that's actually really fun. We launched it last year. I think we've done some really interesting things as far as a web page goes. Our interactive menu, I think, it's very fanciful and fun. It's everything that I wanted to design in a website. So yeah, we're
Awesome.
readily accessible and ready to grow. So that's where we are, and I'm here at every touch point of from our customer service. I hear about all of our outreach. I'm in touch with our product team. Yeah, I'm around too.
I love it. Abby, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.